What is up, Brian? Thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast.
What's going on, Doug? Man, pleasure to be here. I'm stoked.
Bro, I'm pumped for this episode. You are my friend or a legend, man. You're someone I've been looking up to kind of in the fitness space. And then obviously finding out more of your story and hear more about your faith. I think it's something that's super exciting. So I'm excited to have you on this episode and we can really dive into a really cool topic.
Heck yeah, man. I'm honored by that. We touched base and talked about this for a little bit. I think it's so cool. You know, who you surround yourself with is everything, bro. And you know that as well as I do. And I think the more we can really focus on that, surround ourselves with good guys, good people, good voices, we essentially become who we hang out with, who we surround ourselves. So I'm honored by that, man. And I love seeing people like you just spread good energy. You're spreading wisdom, knowledge, and you're bringing good people together. So I love that.
Let's go, man. I love it. Thank you, man. Did you get a good workout in this morning? I saw some stories. It looked like you were jumping rope, or what were you doing?
I'm like, dude, I got a podcast with Doug. I got to get physically fit. I got to just squash that. What is that? Swallow the first frog or the biggest frog.
Yeah,
you have to get that first thing done. So I hit the workout. I did a cold shower and for 20 minutes, I was like, numb and tingling. So I was like, okay, now I know it's going to be a good day.
You're a big cold shower guy, right? That's kind of a part of your routine.
I think the biggest thing with cold showers is, people are like, dude, what are you, crazy? And first off, I live in Florida. Okay. So relax. It's not that cold. I can get out of my comfort zone for 10 minutes, but that's the idea, man. So many of us are not willing to get a little bit out of our comfort zone. And that produces complacency. So if I can wake up and jump in the shower and, work on my breath and focus in on that, or if I'm listening to worship music or whatever I'm doing, it gets me in that position to where I'm not just rolling through the motions. I'm feeling alive. I'm inside my body. And at the end of the day, if you can look back on your morning and your day and your night, and you got a little bit out of your comfort zone, you won.
No doubt. I love that, bro. Yeah, we just had Josh Bridges on the podcast last week, and dude, he talked about it. He said he takes a cold plunge every morning, and he said, because he was a former Navy SEAL, and he said like everyone's got their Achilles heel and buds. He said his was cold water, and he's like, dude, it's literally a little battle each morning, and I just know I'm gonna win it. And I was like, that's a cool way to look at it.
Powerful, dude. What do you think about like, because that he said that's his Achilles heel. What do you think about fear and, what you feared growing up, or maybe what you avoided growing up, how that has, I guess, developed into your adulthood? I can give you an example, but an example would be like, it's interesting. I feel like we'll dive into this more, but I think you go through things when you're younger, and your childhood, your, high school years, they all shape you. And you can be like super fearful or anxious about a certain thing, right? You think you suck at something. For me, it was public speaking. Yeah. For me, it was talking to people, talking to a group of people. I'm great one-on-one, but for me, it was like that public speaking. And I think it goes back to the fear of people's opinions, right? Until you break that, you will never live. You'll never step into the life God calls you to live, because he wants you to find the fear and find the places that you feel like you're inadequate or you suck at. He wants you to run through the storm and run straight through that, confront it. And he might use that that might be a strength. Your weakness or your fear might turn into a strength if you let it.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I think the big thing, people, it comes back to kind of what you were talking about with the cold shower. It's like people are scared to be uncomfortable. And I think fear is a place that's very uncomfortable, and there's a lot of unknowns. And as humans, we want to just know how everything's going to pan out. We want to know exactly what's going to happen. We want to feel good, right? And so I think fear is something that doesn't make us feel good. And there's so many things that are questioning, but dude, I'd embrace it. Like you said, like run through the storm. I think that's the most power, because then what happens, and people are scared to fail too. And that's something that, I think needs to be addressed, but not trying to belay the point. But like, I think when you embrace fear and attack it head on, one, you're going to build confidence, because now that fear is going to be weakened. But then obviously, I choose to put my faith in God, and I trust that he's, walking before me. And so I think, not everybody does, but that's something that I truly believe in, and it's helped me a lot in my life. So that's kind of my take on that.
Dude, amen, brother. I think it gives, like, as Christians, man, we're both Christians. We're both God-fearing men. And that's been a journey. We'll talk about that. But yeah, if we truly believe that there's this higher power, there's this God who's all knowing, all powerful, and he's already won in Jesus, why don't we live in that power?
That's good.
Like so many Christians, myself included. And when I say people and other people, I'm very hesitant these days, because the older I get, the more I know I'm always that guy at some point. So I don't want to be above other people like that. But I do want to say, a lot of people in the Christian world, we like the idea of God. We like the idea of living by faith, but does our life show, like, wow, this guy really must believe in God, because there's no other way he'd do that?
No question. I think that's a big thing. And I think it's too, going off that, it's like, what I don't want to find myself doing is saying, oh yeah, I believe in God and I love him and all this great stuff, and talking to people about him. But then, man, like, do I truly have faith? Like, do I truly, deep down in my heart, when no one's looking, when the doors close, when lights are off, like, do I truly have faith in God's plan for me? Do I truly have faith in what he set out for me to do? And that's where I think it's like an internal thing, where it's like, you got to make the choice. Like, do you really put your faith in God, or do you really put your faith in yourself? Because when you put your faith in yourself, dude, it's going to be scary and it's going to be overwhelming.
And you will get let down. I mean,
100.
like, talking about baseball and being a collegiate athlete, you will let yourself down, and everybody around you. I mean, that's what I found out with marriage. Everybody around you who are looking to fulfill a need that only God can actually solve for you or give you, you're going to be let down by yourself and others. So yeah, man, I think faith is an action verb. I don't think faith, I mean, a lot of times we think it's a noun, but man, show me what you believe in. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, and he's, he went viral years ago, and I freaking love just how he goes about stuff. His lectures, super intelligent. But someone asked him if he thinks or he believes in God. And he's like, I don't really like that question. He says, I don't know what maybe that fully means, but I act as if he exists. And I think that's the best. He said that's the best way to know what someone believes, is look at how they act. If we don't think that we have the victory, then yeah, we're going to be living this kind of hesitant, timid life. But we're called to live boldly, and we're called to live with power, love, and self-control. That's our mindset. And it's not of fear, and it's not of defeat. And I think we've all been there for far too long. And it's time to stop living like that.
I agree. I love that, dude. You teed it up nicely. I don't know. I mean, that was a beautiful segue kind of into the bigger topic, just talking about spiritual fitness and what that means. And I think you're such a great guest to have on to cover this topic. But even before we dive into that, I think sharing some more context of kind of your background and your story would be super helpful as we dive into this topic, man. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about kind of your upbringing. Obviously, I know you kind of touched on it, playing collegiate baseball, and just kind of hear some stories maybe around that part of your life.
I'm stoked to just talk this. I love this stuff, if you can't tell. I grew up Sarasota, Florida, Sunshine State. I grew up in church. My family was very faithful in church attendance. I knew so much about God. I had so much knowledge, and I think I knew all the right things to say. I knew all the right things to do, and what not to do, and what not to say, right? And it was more of a cultural thing. It was more of a family tradition. Okay, so I believed in this idea. I knew who Jesus was, but I didn't have a relationship with him. It was knowledge. It was all up here. It was in between the ears. It was in my head. And so as I grew older, I've always been a people pleaser. And I think Tim Tebow said it best he's someone I look up to, because he's a people pleaser as well. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does become a bad thing when that supersedes pleasing God.
That's good.
If people pleasing is what you're about, and it's been most of my life what I've been about, you eventually will come to a decision when you have to either choose God or choose other people's opinions or being liked. So Tim Tebow said it best. He said there was a moment that everything changed for him. Instead of rather being to be liked, he wanted to be respected. And he wanted to stand for something instead of falling for anything. And he would say, you know what? If you don't like me, that's fine. But I'd rather you respect me. So people are atheists, people are of different faiths and different walks of life, but they look to Tim and they see, wow, that dude is bold and he stands firm in his faith and what he believes in. And that's what I try to, that's how I try to live my life now. But rewind, going back to high school, okay, I put all my eggs in baseball. Similar to you put all your eggs in one basket being basketball.
Right.
Not ironically the basket, but you kind of you say, hey, this is what it's going to be. And you put everything you have into that identity. And if you do things long enough, that becomes your identity. Right. So yeah, I went to college, I was going to play maybe JUCO, ended up going to D1. And man, the career, like my expectations, all these things, I had some, great moments, right? Of course. But I also had the lowest moments of my life. I walked through the darkest valleys in college, being 18, 19, 20 years old. I played a lot my freshman year. I had the very stereotypical sophomore slump. Like that's my second year in the dictionary, right next to sophomore slump. That's where it is. And that's where I asked myself, I said, look, if I'm a baseball player, that's who I am. If that's who I am, what happens when I'm not a good one? Am I worthless? What's going on? Like, where am I going to find the answers to who I am? So as you know, giving up sports or giving up your identity as being a collegiate or professional athlete, we go through this process of an identity crisis at 24. People have those things at 50 and 60, right? They go and they buy the Corvette and they're like, well, dude, I feel like I've worked my freaking tail off and it's not even, I don't feel like it's worth it. I don't feel meaningful. So I fully believe, man, and I ended up playing 4 years D1. I transferred, met my wife, my beautiful wife, who is the love of my life. And
Let's go.
Man, she's grown me so much. And we can talk about marriage. I know you're not married yet, right?
I'm not married.
So maybe I can drop some wisdom on you there. Cause I know
Drop it, bro.
2 years. I know all there is to
Let
marriage.
me know all about it.
But wrapping that thought up, Doug, man, I played 4 years, but I walked through the dark valley. I think of Psalm 23 every single time I look back on those moments, because I walked through the darkest valley, but man, I felt the presence of God so much in those moments, because man, he promises us two things, and he promises us a lot of things, but he promises us he is always with us. He's always for us. He'll never leave us.
Good.
So he took me and walked me through the darkest valley. And that's when I dropped baseball. I said, look, I remember, I think it was on my iPhone notes. I was like, God, look, I wrote a prayer. I'm like, look, I'm no longer putting my identity in baseball. You can take it from me. You can have me go into the major leagues and be the MVP of the World Series. I don't care. I want to trust and put my identity in you. And so
what did that do to your heart? Like that switch?
I think it frees you up, man. It frees you up. This life's so short. It's over like that. And we get so worried and we get wrapped up in our performance, and we really do put our worth into how successful we are in business, how successful, quote unquote, we are in our careers. And ultimately, all that stuff, if it doesn't matter in eternity, it doesn't matter today, because we're a mist. And so it freed me up, Doug. It was like, wow. I gave that to him. I let it go. And if it's in God's hands, man, it's out of your worry. And so you give it to him, you lay it at his feet, and he frees you up to just perform, to be free, and to not be attached to the outcome.
That's so good. I think too, like, it's when you're so focused on something, say baseball, for example, like your tunnel vision, right? Like all you see is that one thing, and your life becomes just looking through this one lens. And I think when you can remove that and see what God has put in store for your life, like you look around, you're like, wow, this is a wonderful place. And like, there's so much opportunity and there's so many things. I don't know, like you said, it frees you up, but it's just That's kind of how I felt, at least. Like I felt like weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I just felt like it was like a perspective change where I was like, there's so much more. Like basketball is amazing and it's opened doors and it's helped me and I've made great relationships, but like it's so tiny compared to like what I can do hopefully for God. Like it's just hard to explain.
Yes. And there's a season for everything, man. And Solomon talks about that a lot in Ecclesiastes, but yeah, it's something. I love that idea. That's what you said, Doug, is, we think this is our world. If
Yeah.
baseball was my world and that my career was everything, then if God takes that away, then yeah, I'm distraught. I am like beside myself. But the reality is, man, his plan is so much better for my life than my just like human, just simple plans. He took something away that I thought was everything, and he gave me himself. He gave me confidence in my identity in him. He gave me something so much better. And I think of that meme or that picture of the little boy with this teddy bear. If you've seen that, have you seen that?
I don't, what he has behind his back.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
God or Jesus is standing next to this boy, and this boy is like, don't take my teddy bear. Jesus is reaching out, trying to ask for the teddy bear. He's like, don't take it. I like, this is my life. This is my world. This is everything.
Right.
And meanwhile, if we just give him the teddy bear, Jesus has this big life size, the teddy bear you see at the circus, and he
Yeah.
wants to give that to us.
Yeah.
But we hold on to the little things, and that doesn't allow him to give us something greater.
That's good, dude. Even one thing I wanted to hit on that you mentioned kind of in your story of like that sophomore slump, just kind of going through a dark time. Like for the people listening that are like going through something like that, like there is so much excitement and encouragement in that season because God is going to be doing something great, and you're going to look back and you might not see what it is now. And I'm sure, Brian, I want to get your thoughts on this, but like there is God is working in those moments, and I think sometimes it's hard to feel that, and sometimes it's hard to see that, but that's where faith comes in. But a lot of times, looking back on my life, even just the darkest moments of my life have been the moments I'm most grateful for, because those literally put me on my back and showed me my dependence was on God. Like I couldn't do it myself.
Yes. Amen. There's a quote. I love that, man. There's a quote that it says, don't be so quick or focused to get out of tough times that you don't get anything out of tough times. And we're so,
That's really good.
man, isn't that the truth though? We're
That is.
so focused on living this like perfect lifestyle with no worries, no problems. We live in a perfect house, got the car, got the wife, got the kids, we got the business booming, everything's great. Are you more likely to rely on God's strength and hit your knees in the morning during those times?
That's
Or are
fire.
you more likely to hit your knees when your marriage is on the rocks and your business has been 6 months in the red? And when your kids are you go through a loss, God forbid. We are so much more reliant on God in the hard times. And that's why I think the first words out of Jesus's mouth when he's talking the Sermon on the Mount, he says, blessed are the poor in spirit. And right there, the humility, the constant need of God and his strength on a daily basis, that's who sees God. That's who belongs to the kingdom of God, the poor in spirit. And then that goes back to Proverbs, man. I'm reading those every day. The fear of the Lord, the reverence of the Lord, understanding I am an ant in light of God. That's the beginning of wisdom. So if we're so, and I just unpacked, I mean, I just got into a lot of different things, but I think, the humility I'm really working on. And I feel like that is such a game changer with being in tough times.
I love that, dude. I really do. Yeah, I want to dive into this topic of spiritual fitness and what that means. Obviously, and I want you to kind of talk about y'all's brand. So like you have Be Fit, which I think a component of it is spiritual fitness, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But what is spiritual fitness? What does that mean to you? And just kind of unpacking what exactly that is.
I'm freaking fired up by this. I think
Let's
if
go.
I had to write a book, man, if I had to write a book, it would be about the spiritual disciplines and the physical disciplines and how they overlap. How being disciplined in the physical realm can produce breakthroughs in your spiritual realm. And so 1 Timothy 4:8, for physical training is of some value. It is valuable, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. So part of the reason I fell in love with fitness and strength and conditioning is with baseball. I felt like I put in some work. I was athletic. I had this potential. I never fully realized it. I never got out what I thought I put in. But with physical fitness, man, I got out exactly what I put in. If you lift weights 4 times a week, you get out that exact amount from the work you put in. And so with spiritual fitness, man, it's so important because, man, I mean, I can pull up so many scriptures. One off the top of my head, Peter, I think it's 1 Peter 5:8, something like that. He says, be watchful, man, be sober, be awake, be alert, because you have an enemy who's trying to get your life, trying to get your mind, your spirit, your heart, and he wants to seek, kill, and destroy. And so be aware of that. He's waiting around, prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. So the spiritual fitness component is waking up to the battle that is your life. The enemy does not want you to make a difference in this life. He wants you to stay asleep. So the enemy wants you asleep to the things of God, to the things that matter. And so the first thing I think is waking up and understanding this life matters, and that your day, your weeks, your months, your years matter. So you must be physically fit. And I'll end with this. There's a beautiful, I think it's a Proverbs, I believe. Or maybe it's a Psalm, but he says, man, if you faint in the day of, man, I should probably look this up. If you faint in the day of men or of fighting, let's say, how do you expect to run with the horses? How do you expect to run with the chariots? So we have to be fit, man. We can't just be rolling through this life expecting good things to happen or expecting to be ready. We have to be prepared and fit. So that's kind of the spiritual fitness.
Dude, I love that. I think it's amazing. And I think I just get amazed of God's, like, just how God works in our lives. Like, this was, you and I had planned this podcast, we, a couple days out, we were like, let's jump on, let's do it, let's crush it. I was thinking about some different topics. You and I were going back and forth, texting, kind of setting it up. And last time I was like, spiritual fitness would be sweet. I woke up this morning and my devotion was literally spiritual fitness. Like, that is, I don't care what anyone says, that's God, bro. That's literally God.
Amen.
But I agree with everything you said, man. And kind of some things I pulled from this devotional, which are even pretty cool. It talks about like how physical, a lot of people were like, if you have a cold, like go, get a sweat in, go work out, like get rid of it, your body, raise the temperature in your body, get the sweat out. But I think the same thing is true. Like when we have, spiritual infection, like when there's something in our heart or something, going on in our life where we're spiritually dead, or there's an absence of God, like we have to train to overcome that. And I think that's what a lot of people like neglect, is just like spending time with God. And I catch myself doing it, man. I get busy. With business, with sports, with, training for the marathon, like everything I've got going on. And I neglect that training, and I can feel like a sickness, like almost where there's an absence of God. And I think that's something we just have to catch and prioritize. So my question for you, I guess, is like, so you kind of explained what spiritual fitness is. How can someone implement that in their life and kind of go about it?
By the way, you're really gifted at this, man. This podcast is going to be massive, by the way. Not just this episode, I'm saying your podcast and the way you relay ideas and speak of your life and facilitate conversation. You're gifted. So I'm excited to see you grow in this, bro. So I think with spiritual disciplines, we like Peter, man. I think of Peter on the boat, and he sees Jesus walking on the water. And I think the tendency is to play it safe, to not move. Don't take action. Don't step out in faith. And Peter, what does he do? He steps out in faith. And we can go into that for a whole 30 minutes about how when he was focused on the king, he was walking on water. He wasn't aware of the waves. He wasn't aware of the winds and the failure or the stuff he didn't want to happen. He was so immersed and focused on walking with Jesus on the water that he didn't sink.
That's good.
So the first words Jesus said to him, I think, was, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? Keep your eyes on me. So if you're struggling, if you have this, like you said, that spiritual sickness, or you're kind of complacent, I think God wants us taking action. I think in action too is prayer. prayer isn't some passive thing. I mean, prayer is praying bold prayers. And what I've been doing lately, and that's again a whole different story, is praying bold prayers and keeping God, holding him to his promises. Praying Jeremiah 29:11 over my life, over my marriage. And so I think to finish that thought, if you want to see God move, you have to be willing to move yourself. And so block times off. Give him the first hour of your morning. Oh man, I can't. It's I gotta stay up late and wake up early. I mean, what do you want to? I mean, go to bed earlier or wake up earlier, and tell me that God doesn't fill you with energy and truth and his power than that one extra hour would. So yeah, man, I prioritize 7 hours of sleep, but I think you should block out your first hour of time to spend it in the word, in prayer, and meditation on the truth, and then writing and stuff like that. Prayer, and then some of the other things, right? There's the study, right? So there's prayer, study, there's fasting, and then there is meditation. Those are the 4 spiritual disciplines. But I think surrounding yourself, like we open this conversation up, surrounding yourself with men who will tell you the truth, right? Who are walking with God themselves, because then you will awaken to life's purpose and God's purpose for you.
Wow. I love that, dude. I think that's incredibly valuable, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think, something that I've seen, as kind of alluding back to what I was talking about being busy and kind of neglecting that time with God, dude, this is where faith comes back like full circle, right? It's like, I sometimes get in this headspace of like, man, I want to accomplish all these great things. My day is going to be busy, but I got to crush it. I got to kill this training. I got to kill these meetings. But then what happens is I get exhausted and I have no source of energy. And I think that's like, man, well, where does my energy come from? Where does my drive and motivation and ambition come from? It comes from God. It comes from what he's called me to do, and the purpose and passion. And I think it's extremely hard to know your full purpose and fulfillment without experiencing some type of spiritual fitness. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Spiritual transformation. I feel like that's the breakthrough people are waiting for. If C.S. Lewis says, if you find in yourself a desire for something nothing this world can give you, the only realistic thing to think is you were created for another world. And I believe that. You and I don't believe that this life is all there is. So if you feel that desire, man, try to get in touch with the one who created you. Because I feel like, man, our life really is just to give. It's to glorify God. That's our ultimate life. And if we can do that, that's success. That's true success. No matter where we live, what car we drive, how much money we end up with in the bank, and when we're 70, that's what it's about. So, yeah, the 4 things I was gonna say, man, I wanted to share the 4 things. I already shared this on Instagram, but when I think of spiritual fitness and why I think it applies to physical fitness, I feel like physical fitness can unlock, like I said, this discipline that spills over to your spiritual. But I believe in 4 things. I think number 1, we're created to love God, love other people, and to know God. To know God is to love. And so that is the overarching theme. I'm not sure which one's correct, but the overarching theme is love people and serve. And so the first pillar basically of the spiritual fitness is self-control or discipline. The self-control required to be physically fit will no doubt help you be spiritually fit, because discipline really comes into play when you don't want to do it. When you don't feel like doing it, that's when you have to be disciplined. When it's easy and it's second nature, that's not discipline, that's habit. So number 2 is being a good steward. We want to be not just a good steward, but a great steward. You have so much talent, dude, Doug. You have so much ability and so many gifts. You have to be a good steward. So if you see something that you're kind of lacking on, think about that as spiritual fitness. Think about something in your life that you can improve upon, because at the end of the day, it's a gift from God. And our job is to steward that gift, not to bury it and hide it and say, I hope, to just be afraid from it. Right. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's awesome.
And then last thing I'll say is staying ready. So we already talked about love. That's the purpose, I think, of life. And we love people in building businesses. We love people in serving physically, spiritually, encouraging. I freaking love encouraging people. I think that's a spiritual gift, no doubt. And I believe that's probably the one that God's gifted me with the most. Cause I get so much life when I encourage people. So it's kind of selfish, to be honest, but the last one, stay ready, man. And that's what it comes down to. Stay ready and be spiritually fit, be fully alive, so you can wake up to the battle and understand there is a battle and you have to be willing and ready to fight it. So that's kind of the three ideas.
That's incredible. I love that. No, and I think you bring so much truth to that. And I love how you lay it out in a way that just it makes sense. And it's just it's so true. Like you can look at, places in your life where you've applied those things and you've seen them work. And it's just that's really the big thing for me, man. It's hard to tell someone that doesn't necessarily believe to have faith. They're like, well, what? I can't see him. I don't know what that means. But like, dude, just like it's almost like I'm just like, just try it. Just like give it a chance. Like those times where I'm like, man, I don't really have time for this today, when in reality it should be the number one priority. Like it's crazy to see what God does. It really is. Like, you make time for him. I had my pastor back in high school, JD Greer at the Summit Church. He's an awesome guy. He used to say, he went to UVA, and he said the last semester of his college career, he would not do any homework or anything on Sundays. And I was like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, you must not know what it's like to be a college student. It's like Sunday's the day you ready for the week. You got to finish up assignments. Everything's due on Sunday night. Like, what do you mean? He said, I didn't do it on Sundays. And he said, and I had the best grades of my whole college career. And I was like, you hear that story and you're like, okay, it sounds a little crazy, but I think it's more the principle of just like putting God first and trusting him, even when you think as a human being that it's not going to work out. Like, dude, like you were saying earlier, like, how are you going to say, what's best for your life when you were created by something so much bigger and better than you? And that's the humility we have to encounter each and every day when we truly put our faith in God. And I think that's what's hard, but that's like that constant just practice of spiritual fitness. Trust God and put your faith in him.
Man plans his steps, but the Lord God directs his steps. So we can make our plans, but at the end of the day, he's going to direct our paths. And I think building a business like BFit and GFit and whatever you're working on, right? Your podcast, your businesses, playbook, all these different things. There's a beautiful Psalm. I always get confused with Psalm or Proverbs, but if the Lord doesn't build the house, the laborers build in vain. So if God's not the one who's building the house, if you don't come before him and say, hey, here's this business, it's yours. Help me to grow it. If it's your will, then he'll bless that, and when your buddy gave his work and gave his study and stuff like that to God, saying, look, show up, I'll give you this. And I trust in you to come through and to provide, then powerful things happen. And I want to touch on this too, because I feel like guys need to hear this right now, is there's such a good song. Did you get your Spotify Wrapped, by the way?
Dude, so you're gonna hate on me. I'm an Apple Music guy.
Oh, hey, cut the podcast, guys. BrianPruett.com.
Dude, my girlfriend gets so mad. She's like, she hates Apple Music, but I'm like, dude, my mom, I'm thankful for my mom. She pays for the family plan. We just rock with Apple Music. But
hey, man, no shame in that, bro. No shame in that. You're the guy who sets off the green, the text messages and not the iMessage. No, I'm kidding.
No, I got the iPhone. The iPhones are here.
Oh, and that makes more sense, to be fair. Apple Music. So
jokes
on me. But man, Spotify Wrapped. I had this song, "Oh Come to the Altar." That was in one of the Elevation. That was in one of the top 5 songs played this year. And don't think I'm like always listening to worship music, but I turn it on. I started turning it on this year and playing it around the house when we're cooking, when we're kind of getting ready for winding down. And dude, tell me that hasn't transformed my marriage, because it has 100%. And so there's beautiful lyrics in that song where the singer goes, have you come to the end of yourself? And I feel like when people find God, so you talk about people without faith and trying to win them over, or maybe give them faith, right? We can't do that. That's not in our power.
Yeah.
And you know that. I know that. We've all tried to at some points. But when people find God, it's when they come to the end of themselves. They realize my strength only comes this far. And if I'm going to trust in my strength and my power to seize the day or have a healthy, sustainable life, longevity, you have to realize there's an end that you'll come to in your own power. And that's where God wants you. Because then you say, hey, it's in your strength. I'm going to walk by faith. I'm going to walk in your strength today, God.
I
So
love that. That's incredible. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I wanted to ask you about. Because I find it super interesting. And I saw you did a Q&A. It's probably a couple of days ago, but someone asked you about music when you train and when you work out. Talk about the power of music. I know obviously like listen, we don't have to be like fake, right? Like I listen to other stuff. Like I like Drake a little bit, but
you listen to the baby?
I don't like the baby that much, honestly, but he enters and that's beside the point. But no, talk about that, man. I mean, talk about the power of music, what that does and kind of how you approach that.
Ooh, man, let me just say before we dive into this that I don't care if it's alcohol, music, man, money, dude, certain things, most things are a heart issue. They're a heart thing.
Yeah.
So for us to think, for me to judge somebody for drinking alcohol or judge somebody for listening to a certain type of music, it shows so much my heart than yours. Right. So, yeah, like, and to be fair, I grew up in a church. Maybe that was like, dude, you drink alcohol. That is a big, big sin. And now that I'm older, the wife and I we see things in moderation. Yeah. We had a glass of wine the other night at dinner, and it's a beautiful thing. Of course, I don't think you should just get blacked out and be led by a different spirit. You know,
Right.
it's the reason why they're called spirits. Be led by the Holy Spirit, be led by the Spirit, walk in the Spirit. But anyhow, going back to music. So I just want to say there's no judgmental judging there. Music is such a powerful thing. It goes so deep into the subconscious that, again, going back to the worship music playing around the house, it's no accident that I started feeling more joyful and more empowered and more brave and more courageous when I started listening and filling my mind with worshipful truth from the Bible. So yeah, of course, I listen to, man, I got my rock playlist. I got the Red Hot Chili Peppers, bro. I got that. I got a bunch of Kanye from way back in the day. I used to love Kanye. And I used to listen to a lot more variety, and I still do, but I'm very aware of how it affects me. Oh, dude, when you're listening to certain music, just I would say be mindful of how you feel after. I mean, are you feeling more like in your flesh? Are you feeling more like, wanting to like, beat people down or just negativity. There's so much in music that can make us like a violently thinking that I think you have to be aware. And music is really just sound waves, and these waves affect our brain. We're so much water, and we just have to be aware. So I feel like, I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm very much aware of what I listen to these days.
I love that. No, I appreciate it.
We are what we consume, right, Doug? Like, if we eat crap food, we shouldn't expect to feel good. And if we just binge watch some, crazy chaotic show full of, whatever, we just shouldn't be surprised that it affects us. And so we have freedom to do everything, but not everything is useful. Not everything is valuable. Like Paul said that, like, everything is lawful for me to do, but not everything is useful. So find stuff that actually builds you up and empowers you. And I think if you focus on that stuff, inevitably, you'll just listen to a little bit less of the stuff that maybe just makes you feel a type of way, if that makes sense.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing light on that. That's good.
I hope that makes sense. I mean, music is pretty crazy when you look into the effects and the hertz and the amount of beats per second, stuff like that. It's very interesting. So
no, I agree. I think that makes a ton of sense. As we kind of wrap this up, man, this has been incredible. I want you to share a little bit more about what you're currently doing and how people can kind of connect more with you. And I know you do training, you take on clients. So let's talk a little bit about that, kind of your approach there and how people can connect with you.
Man, you are so on point. You're so good at this, by the way. I'm in this season of preparation. I literally posted about that this morning, but a lot of big things coming, a lot of transforming things happening, and a lot of exciting things. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So if you go to brianpruett.com, I would love for you listening to click on the weekly devotionals, Spiritually Fit.
I did that.
So let's go. And I saw you. That is something I'm really passionate about, clearly. And I want to kind of like give you a shot of inspiration, a shot of spiritual adrenaline to wake you up that day and that week. So go on there, put your email in. And then, yeah, if you go to my programs, basically what we've done with GFit, BFit, I just hired a coach who's here local. He's an awesome guy. It is completely virtual. So what we found is we can level people up extremely well, and we don't have to be in person to do that. So I've developed a program that's fitness, it's mindset. You can go into the spiritual realm, spiritual fitness, if you like. Not everybody does. But yeah, man, workouts, a fitness app, structure and stuff like that. And I think the one-on-one accountability is what changes the game. So that's kind of what we are doing right now. And then of course, like we're trying to scale that business and also give people value on whatever level, $1 a day, or, you know, so there's definitely opportunities like that in the future. But right now, paying the bills, it's definitely the BFit program and GFit program.
I love that, dude. I think it's so cool to talk to people who have a heart to serve and literally wake up each morning trying to make an impact on someone else. I think that's pretty sick.
And that's all we can do. That's what it's about, man. And you're doing that too. And I'm so encouraged and inspired by this conversation. I just feel like that's when we can focus more on serving and giving. That's what I found out through COVID is, you know, I let go of my life trying to control everything and to make it, so to speak, like quote unquote, make it. And I just started focusing on trying to give value to people. And, you know, if I can fill up with God, if I can be spiritually fit, I can fill people up with encouragement, fill people up with truth, and help them go slay their dragons. You know, we all have a dragon to slay. We all have multiple dragons to slay. And again, it goes back to the battle for your life. And in Jesus, I believe we're created to seek those dragons out, to stop hiding, stop wishing they didn't exist, because they do. That's the game we're in. And go find the dragon and go slay it. And that happens when you wake up and you're alive and you're fit for battle.
Let's go. I'm pumped up, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go get it, man. Let's go.
Let's go, man.
I'm glad we did this in the morning, not at night, because I probably wouldn't be able to sleep.
Oh, man. Dude, I feel that. And I love this, man. This is probably not the only podcast we're going to do together. I'd love to have you on mine.
Let's do it.
And hear more from you, because you got so much wisdom at such a young age. And yeah, man, I just want to encourage you, because you got a very long runway. So yeah, you got some bright things coming.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate that. I just want to serve God, man. Let's keep helping people, bro. Thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast. You are a legend, and I'm excited to see where our relationship goes as friends, as brothers, and let's keep crushing it, man.
Let's go, Doug, man. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.